We begin tonight with our top story, President Trump on offense. Today, Mr. Trump gave his first public reaction to yesterday's explosive testimony from FBI director he fired last month. This morning, the president tweeted he feels totally and completely vindicated. This afternoon, he explained why.
No collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker. Frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said, and some of the things that he said just weren't true.
The president did not stop there. Watch this exchange with Jonathan Karl from ABC.
Should I take one of the killer networks that treat me so badly as fake news? Should I do that? Huh? Go ahead, John. Be fair, John.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember how nice you used to be before I ran? Such a nice man.
Always fair. Mr. President, I want to get back to James Comey's testimony. You suggested he didn't tell the truth in everything he said. He did say under oath that you told him to let the Flynn, you said you hoped the Flynn investigation he could
I didn't say that.
So he lied about that.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, I will tell you, I didn't say that.
And did he ask you to pledge his
And there'd
loyalty?
be nothing wrong if I did say it, according to everybody that I've read today, but I did not say that.
And did he ask for a pledge of loyalty from you? That's another thing he said.
No, he did not.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of those events?
100%. I didn't say under oath. I hardly know the man. I'm not going to say, I want you to pledge allegiance. Who would do that? Who would ask a man to pledge allegiance under oath? I mean, think of it. I hardly know the man. It doesn't make sense. No, I didn't say that, and I didn't say the other.
So if Robert Mueller wanted to speak with you about that,
I would be glad to tell him exactly what I just told you, John.
And you seem to be hinting that there are recordings of those conversations.
I'm not hinting anything. I'll tell you about it over a very short period of time.
When is that?
Okay? Okay. Do you have a question here?
When will you tell us about the recordings?
Over a fairly short period of time.
Are there tapes, sir?
Oh, you're going to be very disappointed when you hear the answer. Don't worry.
So, seems like the president has his mojo back. I love how he speaks like he tweets. No obstruction, no collusion. He's the leaker.
Yeah.
Looks like the president's back on offense.
Yeah, no collusion. Leaker. He's a leaker. That's what we found out. So, you know, he obviously feels confident about what happened. It was a good day for him in terms of his statements. He was very consistent, saying that he was told 3 times. And then there you heard it from the FBI director saying, yes, I told the president on 3 separate occasions that he was not the subject of an investigation. Where do they go from here? Where's the big, conspiracy and the collusion or obstruction of justice or investigation that we've been hearing about over and over again? I mean, yes, I think they're going to finish this up and see, but what are they going to all of a sudden magically get that what came to light after Comey stepped down, after he was fired? Are they going to get some evidence that he wasn't aware of? That's what I'm very curious about, because I don't see how they sustain this at this point and keeping it going.
Chris Matthews also agrees that this Trump-Russia conspiracy is dead, and that should tell you a lot.
The Tingler?
The Tingler, as we like to call him. Greg, Trump's now floating the idea that there may be tapes.
Well,
what's the strategy there?
First of all,
is there a strategy?
They're actually, it's an interesting strategy, but I think it's time that we lay off Jim Comey, show some compassion. He's now a stay-at-home dad.
Aww.
And we value our stay-at-home dads, don't we?
We do.
We do. Okay, when he says there might be tapes or are there tapes, it's the same kind of mentality when he said, hey, if the Russians know anything about Hillary's emails, let us know. It's based on the assumption that everything's being recorded or everything's being taped, and there's people surreptitiously doing something or another. It's kind of just a joke on his part. I think that's what it is, and that's why when he says, I think you're going to be really disappointed when you find out. But there's an interesting, what's happening right now is how the story is shifting.
Yeah.
Because I read a headline from the Washington Post that said, quote, there's no indication Comey violated the law.
Okay.
So the story has shifted now, and he's actually, it's like now everybody's looking at Comey because they realize, that straight-A student that was Jim Comey is now the Fink. He's the guy that when all the other students went to play hooky and swim at the creek, he called the principal. So he's now everybody looks at him differently. My favorite part of the press conference was we heard the clearest explanation of NATO and the defense payment sharing by the Romanian president. And that's not even his primary language, but when he explained it, everybody got it. He said it so, I don't know if you guys saw that part. It was great.
I missed that part.
Greg was mesmerized.
I was. Go Romania.
Can we talk about what Greg just said, the shift in the narrative? And you actually said this the other day, and you were right, as much as it pains me to admit that, Dana.
Why?
You said, I'm kidding.
What do you have against me?
I'm teasing. You said that...
How much time do you have?
You said that the left was going to pick something up from the testimony, and the right was going to pick up something from the testimony, and they're going to each, plant their flag afterwards. It looks like Trump was exonerated, but the left is now moving with this thing that Comey called Trump a liar. That's what they're kind of grasping onto now. Do you see this going anywhere for the Democrats and the left, or is this Russia thing over, in your opinion?
Well, it's not over because you have the Bob Mueller investigation,
Right.
which he says he'll try to wrap up in 3 months. So we've got a long way to go. And I think that the president benefits from being the owner of the bully pulpit, because then he could rule the day today. He already had a planned press conference because the Romanian president's coming. When that happens, there's usually 2 questions aside, and he was able to he's fueled the weekend, right? Everyone's going to be able to talk about, but it depends on what they're talking about. But it's not just tapes, but he offered to testify.
Was that not a good idea?
Okay, let's have it. Like, I'm for it, right? We're in the media, like, that would be great. I don't know if his lawyers would agree, because one of the things is that you get in there under testimony. The issue with the FBI is that they've talked to a lot more people that you don't necessarily know.
Right.
So when they say, oh, by the way, we've talked to Mike Flynn, and he said this, do you agree? And now we're also in this he said question. I don't think there are tapes, because if there were, I don't think he would have said that.
Right.
Okay. I also think that now you have to actually suspend belief, whatever that saying is, that the president's saying he didn't say any of that to Comey, that he didn't ask to go easy on Flynn, and he didn't ask for a loyalty pledge. So you have to believe that then the FBI director left and decided to write a creative story on his laptop that would be the most epic perjury in the history of the country. And I don't know if that's necessarily going anywhere, but it is something that the media is going to chew on. The other thing I would say is I feel like possibly Comey will be called back up to testify. And I think one of the questions that is still sort of
Are we going to have the
swirling
countdown
around
clock
there.
again for that, too?
Oh,
or
you
not?
know it, because the ratings were great. But the question would be, and there might not be a good answer, but when you're in the Oval Office and the president makes you feel uncomfortable and you feel like he's getting up to the line of possibly leading to an obstruction of justice thing, why don't you say, whoa, Mr. President, let's stop. Stop right there. Stop right there.
Yeah.
Can we get the Attorney General back in here? And I think that actually President Trump would have said, yeah, sure, okay, whatever.
That's yes.
But he didn't do that, and I don't understand why, and that might be something that he could actually clarify.
Well, he admitted he came off as quite cowardly throughout this hearing. One also very humiliating for the New York Times at the hearing. So they put out this report that said that Trump campaign staff members were in constant contact with Russian intelligence agents. And Comey was asked straight up, is that true? And he said, not true at all. So that was kind of the crux of this whole collusion narrative based off this New York Times report, and it's not there anymore.
I don't think that's true. I think what Comey said was that, as far as he's concerned, the story was inaccurate in the main. New York Times responded that the definition of intelligence officials, Russian intelligence officials, is quite, fungible, because oftentimes it's banks, for example, Jesse, that they're state-owned, they act on behalf of the Russian government, but they're not technically intelligence officials. Or you have the way that the Russian spies work to recruit people, and sometimes it's people who are not necessarily members of the KGB, but in other roles. But let me just speak broadly in terms of what we've been discussing.
Well, can I just say one? The New York Times did say they tried to contact those sources that gave him the information for the story, and they never responded back to them. So all of a sudden, they were nowhere to be found. But go ahead.
Probably because they know that the Justice Department is onto them.
Could be.
Hopefully.
Right?
I don't know. But I'm so interested that you say the game's over. Trump says he's vindicated. I'm like, wow. You mean the people on the right are so blind, are so interested in running away from this story, that they are going to join Trump in saying, oh, nothing happened here. Who saw anything? Jim Comey, a leaker. Greg, the whole issue, this hasn't changed any narrative. The White House came out and made the fact that he leaked the document into some kind of crime. So people are saying, well, gee, is it a crime? Did Jim Comey commit an answer?
That's the
zero.
That's
no.
That's the shift in the narrative.
No
that's
shift.
so funny.
That's manipulation by a White House that's on the defensive and trying to point a finger at somebody else. It's not a shift in the narrative.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't just. It wasn't just the White House, though. That was the Washington Post. Look, the fact.
The media's covering it.
Yeah.
And by the way, last time we checked, the White House doesn't control the media.
Yeah, and they also respond to the bully media. This is an example.
Oh my God! Who's the big bully? President
No,
Trump.
I'd say they're bullying on both sides. We've spent 8 years of being bullied into submission. You could not say anything about President Obama.
I never heard a word from Greg Gutfeld negative about President Obama.
I think I was called names for everything I said. But okay, we're dealing right now with an example of confirmation bias. Either you see Trump as evil at the beginning, so nothing's going to change your mind, or you see him as not evil and nothing changes your mind. I live in the middle.
Deal with me, because I don't see him as evil. I see him at times as a bully, rude, offensive, and incompetent. But I don't, and with no political.
What does this have to do with?
But let me hold
What does this have to do with the A block and what we're discussing?
Greg,
let's get to the substance.
Whose credibility would you trust? If someone said to you,
are
you going to trust President Trump or Jim Comey? I'd say, oh boy, look at the number of lies told by President Trump.
That is such a great question, because you're dealing with somebody who tweets versus somebody who leaks. The most transparent thing you can do is tweet. Trump is the most transparent politician on earth.
How about?
You know everything about him. I know everything. And what do we find about Comey? Comey has this hayseed, folksy demeanor that he uses to deflect from the fact that he did some wormy things.
What's wormy about leaking? Now is wormy.
Yeah.
How about this?
I wake up in the middle of the night and I leak.
Get out of here.
I do too, but for different reasons.
Well, how about this?
Well, you didn't like him like 6 months ago when you say he costed Hillary the election.
Well,
so now
what do you mean he cost Hillary?
Wait a second. You guys wanted Comey fired 6 months ago.
Let me go back.
Now all of a sudden he has a lot of credibility?
That has no relevance to what's at stake.
And you know what else has no relevance?
This discussion.
All of the name, all of the name calling that you're doing about the president, and you just went on and on because you don't want to talk about actually what's in the A block, which is the substance of his testimony and the memo. You just said, President Trump's a bully. Oh, he's a this and that. The reason why the press is covering the narrative of whether or not there's legal implication for what Jim Comey did is because it's relevant. Because he admitted that he leaked the document and that he prepared documents based on a meeting with the president. That is work product. That is discoverable.
That's not classified, and he's a private citizen.
And he leaked it
We're
going to debate this in the next segment. And in the meantime, they're probably covering up for the fact that Loretta Lynch tried to influence the FBI investigation. They don't want to talk about that.